to the match. Mind over matter being the first one. We saw last game the focus against the beach really get away from the Anteaters, synthesized through AJ, Alex Hawkes getting sent off for yellow card accumulation, David, as you had mentioned. And the second one, send it for the seniors. It is senior night here at Anteater Stadium. This is a culmination of a really special journey that under, I think, 5% of athletes in the country will experience playing a D1 sport. And everyone on the field tonight needs to leave it out there for these outgoing ballers.
It is so remarkable to see one team that's still in the hunt for a Big West Conference regular season crown in UC Irvine. They're in contention because they have just been driving up the draws. They have 5 draws. They're 1-0-5 in conference play.
And I guess that's one way to do it. Protect your goal at all costs. They've certainly been buttoned up defensively. Just certain breaks in the game getting away from them. And with a few games left in conference before the tournament looms, hoping to just dial in that control of how they're going about getting W's.
Well, first things first, they got to get off to a good start. There's Hinojosa. UC Irvine playing with their different uniform combination tonight. Got the black and blues, tops and bottoms, the blue and gold around the letters and the numbers. It was interesting. I had a pretty good conversation with Scott Juniper a few days ago, running around with his kids, and he feels good about the group. Just he's waiting for them to get those wins. They're playing like it. It's just ball hasn't found a foot one way or another, and feels like once they get the ball rolling, no pun intended, that good things will continue to happen.
Nice ball.
Good service here, that right foot. Tell you what, the expression on Mendoza's face tells it all right there.
Once again, we're seeing our resident Anteater from the Netherlands getting a lot more comfortable. De Bakker, just a first time kiss of the ball into the back post. Mendoza offside. Really promising signs of improvement for Soos De Bakker here in the latter stages of the campaign.
So no Alex Hawkes. See what kind of attitude UC Irvine brings to the pitch tonight. They are a different team when she's not out there.
Hawkes is a feisty player, tough customer. Just unfortunate to see the game go the way it did with her getting sent off in a rivalry game. It's a really exciting player to watch as we just see the Matadors here. Some glimpses of finding space at the expense of the Anteaters. But
Ashley Cruz there.
They'll be missing her tonight, Hawkes, David.
Yeah, no doubt about it. CSUN has yet to score a goal in 3 straight matches. You know, Glow Hinojosa would love to push it to 4. They're winless in their last 4. In fact, they've need to get a victory for quite a while, but opening up conference play has not fared well for them. They're 0-5-1. 2-12-1 overall, but again, they've only scored 9 goals in the season and they've conceded 40. We mentioned it at the top of the show about their inefficiencies offensively. And so if you can't score, you better be pretty darn good defensively. This chip in, Maldine with a good stop.
Crystal Covey was looking for another top shelf goal to add to her small but growing collection of beautiful strikes. She just tries to get up underneath this with a lifted chip, although the technique was with her instep. It's a good idea from Ms. Covey.
See Kaylee Johnson there, the freshman from Rancho Cucamonga, kind of sort of up the road. I say that loosely though.
Over the hill and away.
Yeah.
In the kingdom of the 909.
That's right. Here's Cruz. Cruz trying to make a move. See Chavez getting up a little gingerly at first. Hard to believe, but there's only a couple games left here at Anteaters Stadium for both the men and the women combined. Obakava. The Claiborne, and Claiborne move things over on the right side, but a poor pass, and this will result in a throw-in for UCI.
And our Anteaters are really going to want to keep this Matador back line on the ball. You can see under pressure with the rock at their feet, not entirely comfortable playing out of pressure.
As we're here in the 7th minute.
Good strength.
Couple players to be aware of, obviously, with Jaquez being out. See if Alyssa Moore makes a name for herself tonight. Interesting enough, Luke, for a lot of what's going on with these draws with UCI is Maldine has to come all the way out of her net. One player that we've seen come up, go down, stay in the middle has been Tanti Fung. She's been on the ball a lot, but she was doing a lot more of the creativity and delivering on service the first handful of games this season. Seems like she needs a running mate, though. This one's nicely placed inside. That cross never made it way.
Alyssa Moore just needs to be more selfish there. She was in on goal, bearing down on Van der Kollen. And this is a good step from Crowder. Moore does well to ride the line, and right here she's in, would have been apt to test the Matador goalkeeper. It's a good alchemy of movement there, just lacking final product.
Yeah, you see Maldine come out. Hayden, who came out like that, I mean, you're pretty much committing as you're a keeper, and she did. That one was awfully close, and Maldine in the back of the net.
Maldine, excuse me, on that prior call. And she did well, enough to get in the head of Alyssa Moore.
You see Cruz there, a graduate from Oxnard, California, just up the 405, 101 freeways, respectively. That header, 2 ginger on it. Maldine will make the stop. It has been a troublesome point for CSUN, scoring goals, getting stops, doing all of it at the same time. And we're looking at the body of work for CSUN. You're just trying to figure out how they could pick up a W here and there. Team has surrendered 40 goals on the year.
Oof.
And overall, the team's goals against average is nearly 2 3/4. 267. You saw another attempt in close proximity. I'll say, as much as the defense has been wavering a bit, Taylor Thames and Hayden Maldine in net for CSUN this year, they have pretty good save percentages. Maldine comes into tonight's contest with a save percentage at nearly 72. 716 is her save percentage, so she can get beat up in net, but when she's seeing a ton of shots come her way, she's responded. UCI had numbers for a brief moment.
And I think that's one thing you'll see culturally in teams from the Valley, whether they be high-level club teams or collegiate sides. Predominantly defense first, and what comes with that is a sense of pride about the way they go about defending. Doesn't matter if you're 0-5-1, 2-12-1. They'll never let up from a morale standpoint. And I think one agent for that, if you will, would be the presence of Rafael Garcia on the staff, aiding Christine Johnson in what would be considered a rebuilding year, I suppose. It's a really, really talented midfielder who, with the LA Galaxy, won 2 MLS Cups, played along the ranks of David Beckham and Landon Donovan, and contributed regularly. And it never mattered what team he was playing on, whether it be in the USL after the Galaxy or with LA Galaxy 2, or playing in the Open Cup with some members of the club that maybe weren't the highest paid. He has a sense of accountability and ferocity about the way he plays. And to be honest with you, the Matadors look very organized tonight. And Garcia's on his feet. You could see him. He's gesturing. Yeah, as we punch in there. There he is with his arms folded, just cagey body language already. It's a competitive soccer personality. I had the pleasure of coming up with in the youth ranks, West Valley Samba.
See what the Matadors do here on the attack. They have their white uniforms on tonight. White tops, white bottoms, the black and red around the letters and numbers. CSUN been towards the bottom end of the Big West Conference for the last handful of years, and part of the reason why Christine Johnson is here is they've had some turmoil amongst the head coaches, and so she's come in and trying to light a spark and navigate this ship upward and onward.
Couple of reckless fouls like that from Alyssa Moore, just in the sense of throwing her body up against the Matador back line as she just nudges Torres there. And to your point about Tati Fung, comparing her form in the early stages of the season to now in Big West play, as Scott Juniper has decided to tinker with the personnel. I think they were playing more small ball at the beginning of the season. It was, you know, the likes of Monso and Fung and Creighton were on the ball a lot in the center of the field, and perhaps Coach Juniper just didn't feel like he was getting to goal enough, even though there were a lot of positive results there. And even against Beach, here's a nice ball.
It is a little long. For the most part, CSUN's been pretty clean defensively. There's a foul there, be committed by Jackson.
And this is mind over matter, David. That getting into that tug of war with the referee is not going to help the Anteaters tonight at all. Sure, they've learned that lesson from last game. Just want to devote that energy of harassing the ref to playing a clean game defensively, staying dialed in for the entire 90.
Well, Fung, much like many of the players up front for UCI this year, lots of question marks because of the scoring. Scoring ledger's obviously what matters when you're drawing so many times. You know what you're getting defensively and in goal. Offensively, it's been musical chairs for a bit.
And I just think that Fung, in this new mix of personnel and way of lining up for Coach Juniper, she's relied upon because she's extremely refined technically. But I was just finishing up saying that against Beach and here tonight in the early stages of this game, just seems to get a little lost in the more direct approach. And what's going on here?
See Aaron Covey.
And that can happen during the course of a season where your role might change. You could be an extremely talented player. You have a comfort zone of where you want to thrive and look good, and you know you'll get high production. The coach asks you to go play left back. It's a metric of your professionalism to be able to go do that and do it well. Do whatever the team needs through the expectations of the coach to get wins. And so she seems a bit misused maybe, or lost in this new look, but we'll see if she can add some value.
This one floating up, and Maldini will bring it down. Cruz asking for the ball. And now out wide. Garrity. Casey into the box.
Oh my word.
That ball is free. Hinojosa. Great stop by Hinojosa.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That took a funky hop.
Funkadelic, David. And we had talked about this last game. This is another nice move from the Matadors as Garrity gets behind that ball. And we chatted about this last game. The way Hinojosa comes to collect the ball in the air, considering her height. A nervy moment there. Big time for the Anteaters on senior night. As I think she just likes to collect the ball closer to her body.
That one gonna be headed away.
And when
Healy.
And when that happens, it allows for half a second more time of the ball to travel to where she's comfortable to catch it. But what that also leaves is more time for a Matador dome piece to get to the ball.
For the Matadors, entering the game is number 16, Riley Goosen Brown. She replaces 27, Samantha Healy.
Riley Goosen Brown coming in for Samantha Healy. Riley on the back line from Sherman Oaks. Actually went to Notre Dame High School.
The Knights.
That's right.
Mission League powerhouse.
Those that are baseball fans. One of the guys that plays for the New York Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton, went to Notre Dame High School. Formerly known as Mike Stanton.
The artist formerly known as Mike Stanton. Heard some wild high school baseball stories about him. I was a year or two, or maybe 4, older than him when he was doing his thing. But just mashing for the Knights.
This one stayed in for a moment. Maldine is there. So a nervous sequence a few seconds ago for UC Irvine. Hinojosa with a timely stop as we're in the 19th minute.
It's another miscue from Fung, unfortunately.
Claiborne. Angelica with some service here, but to no man's land. All there were Anteaters in possession with it now. See what UCI does here on a run. Have some numbers out wide, but pass was a little too hot and a little too far.
It's been interesting to see Gianna Creighton moonlight, there she is, as a winger, an outside mid. Player that brings a lot of balance and stability defensively.
It's almost like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, though, when you have her in different spots of the pitch.
I think that's a big time tell. Oh, wow. She's in.
Huff trying to maintain it, though. A partial breakout here, Hinojosa.
Great save.
Stop.
Great save from Hinojosa, and a solar eclipse turnover, very rare from the back line of UC Irvine. I believe it was Miss Huff. Just an errant giveaway here. And Jackson does well. And Arteaga gets in on goal, and Hinojosa does really well. Big up to Glow there.
Well, that was huge. So remember that one. Hinojosa with two big stops here in the first 20+ minutes. Both near her line. And both were quality shots.
Nice ball.
Hinojosa coming out again, trying to cut off Jackson. She'll quickly restart it.
And I want to point out something about Alyssa Moore. You can tell she's not naturally comfortable playing at the point of the arrow, the top of the trident as a striker. Not that she's alone up there, but a lot more comfortable providing width than playing with her back to goal and combining with players.
Here's Garrity again. Garrity had excellent service. This one should be a goal kick, even though it came to Hinojosa.
Great strength.
Covey. She's got all kinds of room. The chip back to her. Covey.
Oh, wow.
Just could not get to it. Heads up play by Maldine.
It's a beautiful run from Aaron Covey. Maybe not coast to coast, but the Midwest to Southern California here with just a great strength there to put Garrity in her pocket. Takes her time really well here. Moore stays on side. A ball with a little less of a lazy bounce in it from Alyssa Moore might have done Covey good and put her in on goal. It was a bright moment. Northridge is very organized behind the ball, and you saw at the beginning of the game, first 10 to 15. A lot of direct play from UC Irvine, trying to use the wheels of Alyssa Moore to just get over the top of the Matador defense. And coincidentally, some of the Anteaters' more dangerous attacks have been counterattacking themselves.
For the Matadors, number 18, Cassidy Imperial Fan.
Another substitution here for CSUN.
She replaces
Cassidy Imperial Femme checks in. Imperial Femme, a freshman from Stevenson Ranch, California, went to West Ranch High School. So one thing too, when you look up and down this roster, Luke, for CSUN, they have no serious leadership. Not in the sense of no proven leaders, but they don't have anyone that's been around for a long time. The majority of the roster is just littered with freshmen. And so it's quite remarkable for Christine Jackson, who's trying to turn around a program that's been in some turmoil. Who do you rely on? Who do you look at? Who do you think will push when players need to be pushed?
This was a marble cracking tackle from the defending Big West Defender of the Year, Maddie Chavez. Loves to lay out and really clatters Cruz there. And to your point of the greenness of this Matador roster, just pointed out Maudlin and Torres at the beginning of the game as being some of their more experienced players. That's just through the lens of minutes played this season.
Yeah.
As you had mentioned, a lot of fresh faces.
17 freshmen on this roster. 17.
What that gives you, though, is the ability to really do a cultural overhaul of the team, of the squad, and from top to bottom, perfect how you want these young women going about playing the game, representing the university. But what comes with that are some really rough growing pains, like the season we're looking at right now, unfortunately, for the Matadors. But they're hanging tough through 25 minutes here. They're kind of hanging fog over Anteater Stadium on senior night.
Yeah, I think to your point, when you have that kind of open canvas, if you will, to make mistakes, especially as CSUN can and does make with the youthful squad, they can get away with it, and these players can learn on the fly. Always different learning on the fly when you're playing as opposed to just watching game tape.
It's nothing like the speed of the D1 education, yes, while you're sitting in the front row of the classroom on the field. Can be rough, but I mean, look at DeBacher. We've seen her some really frenetic play, second guessing herself out of position defensively. Look, over the span of 3 starts, a different player. So everyone's got the quality at this level. It's just a matter of the reps.
Good chip here. Quickly approaching his UCI. That cross. And Doza trying to create. And this will be a corner for UCI.
Covey was salivating at the prospect of another boomer here. We just see this replay again. So nice little bit of a lucky bounce from an errant pass from Schmengi, tidied up by Tati Fung. Creighton bears down well on the end line. And that was a nice ball, slightly behind the right peg of Aaron Covey. Rafa Garcia, you could hear him from across the field.
Ooh, played delicately across the way, ever so close.
And this is Crowder, who gets crumbled at the back post. And this is something we haven't seen, perhaps why she's been so consistently used as a starter, is just that ability to make what in the soccer world is called the Cesc Fabregas run, where you're playing the pivot, the center mid, but you have the ability to read the game well and drift into the 18-yard box, get involved, some direct scoring opportunities, perhaps a ball driven low on the ground from DeBacher. It's going to be just a bit easier for Crowder to tuck in. This feels familiar though, doesn't it, David? An onslaught from the Lady Anteaters early on. Just hoping they don't cool off. Nice touch.
Always the case that as we have discussed, this wild game can come back at you twofold. Play so good on one end, and all of a sudden you get snake bit on the other.
And I like the debut of Sophie Gillies here. Here she is in the ball. Thought she played well in the black and blue rivalry game. Gillies doesn't look it, but has the target man IQ. Comfortable playing with her back to goal. And with that low-lying block of the Matadors, who are content to sit back, if you have someone like Gillies who's checking off the back line towards the ball, it'll force them to step out of there.
Get out of that way, and Muldoon comes out. As we're now into the 30th minute here from Anteaters Stadium. Ooh. Anteaters right now with a couple of decent chances, but Season equally has had a couple of attempts on goal. Shots right now 6-4 in favor of UCI, but 3-1 for Season with shots on target.
Nice turn.
So there's a couple of chances that we've had, several chances where you're looking at one play, Luke, could be the difference in a game like this, where you feel like, yeah, Season may not have the record that they want. Obviously, the expectations for them are different than UC Irvine's, but when you get in this kind of a position, one goal could stand up.
Anything can happen in the Big West.
We'll have some out-of-town scores at the break, along with a look across the Big West Conference. Also give you an idea of what's on tap for the men's and women's teams as we go right down to the final leg of the regular season. UC Irvine, after this one, they will go up to Central Coast, California. They have two big ones coming up. At UC Santa Barbara, at Cal Poly. And then they return home on October the 27th, a Thursday night, against Hawaii. And that's it. Say goodbye to October. Say happy Halloween to all you. And then we get into November, where UCI, the men and the women, hoping to capture a Big West Conference tournament bid.
Certainly some palpable emotions brewing on the pitch tonight. Rubalcava's a nice player, not afraid to take this very physical Anteater back line on in small pockets.
For CSUN, Aaron Anderson, number 4, enters the game, replacing 22, Jacqueline Victoria.
Castagna in for UCI. Emily coming in. We've seen a lot more of her over the last few weeks. And it feels like, yeah, if you're Scott Juniper, you're just trying to find that right combination to unleash your offense, and at the same time not give away anything defensively.
Have to say, I think the gravity of the moment, the Beach versus Anteaters game, got to this group a little bit. They were the dominant side most of the game, dealt with the heavily reliant on counter-attacking methods of the Beach very well, with the exception of Alex Jaquez jumping a errant clearance. Ball gets to Lena Solano and the equalizer came. I do feel as though that they were unlucky. They're a reactive group in a good sense, where I feel like see some good sides do just enough of what they need to do to win games, not entirely explosive.
This one whipped out.
And I think Covey's going to get a lot more out of that run using her left foot. Just didn't feel confident enough, I suppose.
It looked like a near illegal touch, but they play on anyway.
There's over the past couple matches, just a palpable sense of disconnectivity between Smengi and Chavez. We chatted about it a few times. Miscues, assumptions. Got to get on the same page from a positional, organizational standpoint. Kira Smengi and Maddie Chavez.
Creeping towards the 36th minute here.
Number 30, Layla El-Bahari is in the game for the Anteaters. She replaces 10.
Lila El-Bahari coming in. See if El-Bahari can do anything on the offensive end. El-Bahari so far only 1 goal in the campaign. El-Bahari making her 13th appearance in 2022. She's only started in 1 match.
It's shocking when you see her quality, hearing that stat.
And then up to this point, Gianna Creighton, Tati Fung, the only 2 players for UC Irvine, along with Maddie Chavez, who have gone wire to wire. They've started and appeared in all 15 games up to this point. This is drastically different from a team a year ago where you could pretty much not pencil, but pen in the starting 11 for Scott Juniper. But that's neither here nor there. Ooh, that's a booking. That's a surprise booking from our lead official tonight.
Gianna Creighton is miffed vexed. She feels as though that was within the ballpark of acceptable contact that our center ref has allowed on the evening. Let's take another look at this. Maybe just that elbow grazing the back of Rubalcava's head there. But these Anteaters have to stay focused, David.
Trying to here in the 37th minute. Playing to a scoreless draw, not the worst thing in the world. But again, the time situation overall, Hinojosa, tell you what, she's had a couple shots fired her way. But certainly a keeper of her caliber, not falling asleep, but she's had to be on her toes. As Creighton in the book in the 37th minute.
Ball seemed a lot closer to Hinojosa's right post than she herself maybe had conceded to the Anteater faithful here down in Irvine. As that ball was struck, had her arms spread out as if the signal for no one to touch it, including herself. It's a reflex you'll see from goalies and defenders sometimes. And as I watched that ball sail, you could see the shadow of it on the post. It's a bit closer than we had all suspected.
Here they come though again, Sophie Gillies. Gillies continue to see valuable time as this one played in, bounces out and stays out. Chavez just sliding things away gracefully.
And this Anteater team is content to deal with whatever the Matadors can muster with literally just 2 defenders. Content to send Huff and DeBacher goalward and put out any fires with Smengi and Chavez back there, who Chavez showed there she can cover a lot of ground.
Well, that'll be a foul. Been a relatively clean game, but I'll tell you what, CSUN does not back down. And at moments, they've looked like the better team.
That's that 818 bite, that valley edge, if you will.
Lana Etheridge, the lead official tonight.
Some words between Creighton and Rubalcava there.
This one nullified, so it'll be another throw-in for UCI.
And I think that's something that both the men's and women's team up at CSUN in Northridge pride themselves on, is that resilience and grit. That you may beat us 4-0, but it'll not be a fun time for you. And they're really showing, they're first to a lot of the loose balls and visibly disorienting a few of these Anteaters.
Which is just odd to see, but it's the way this thing unfolds at times. Now we'll have a stoppage here.
And Maddie Chavez has taken 2 awkward-looking collisions within the first 40 minutes of this game. She was limping after the first one up against the touchline here. And then you could hear, that sounded like 2 pool balls hitting one another. Ooh. She's visibly in discomfort there, walks it off. What a beast.
She appears to be okay, but you see the magnetic tape.
Yeah. And maybe,
I know Halloween's right around the corner, but oftentimes it looks like those are laces or stirrups for Scotsmen. They wear their boots. Belts.
and you could just see the energy, Maddie Chavez. There are some manic nerves in this UC Irvine team, and the defense especially, who I feel like are on the end of their rope as far as patience is, like a pitcher in a baseball game, you know, doing enough to keep it to be a 1-run or 2-run game, and the offense just perhaps not clicking at the right time to get that pitcher a win. And I think that's highlighted at Jaquez's behavior last game, getting frustrated at the ref.
Well, this looks to be a foul against UCI. That is the case. Ortega and also Cindy Ortega. Tell you what, she spun and turned.
Little
Foul with warrant?
Little soft, in my opinion. And this is a dangerous spot. Good 3 or 4 yards off the edge of the 18. And it's just gonna give Arteaga, who's lining up over this thing, enough space to get it up and over the wall.
There she goes on the approach. Too tall.
A little bit of a slap shot there. Unfortunate for the Matadors.
See if they could push the other way. No numbers. Good closeout. Semicolon.
Hopeful ball.
Yeah, Arteaga's attempt outside the 18, probably the cleanest look we've had outside the chances in close proximity for CSUN. But on a set piece like that, pretty good shot, just not her best.
Yeah, a little bit too much of a golf club swing there. Not enough coming through the ball with her instep and applying a bit more force to her strike, have it move. And Maddie Chavez seems to just be dealing with a knock. Really going to be a test of her durability. Hope she's okay.
Final 90 seconds here. But nothing, at least in terms of creativity, for CSUN. One decent threat. See Destiny Monzo in the bottom of the screen. Less than a minute to go. Good ball outside. Gillies trying to deliver it. Monzo shoots, and that thing is air-mailed.
Like how Gillies slowed the play down there. Got her head up. Still lacking a bit of quality on finding the feet of a teammate.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Final 7 seconds here. Someone will have to turn and shoot. And that's how this first half will end. So a couple spoiled chances by the keepers on each end.
See what Scott Juniper's group is made of from a mentality standpoint here. Senior night, they got to take it to CSUN, who visibly disoriented the group with their physicality and organization behind the ball. Got to show that higher level of why they deserve to be in the Big West tournament here.
Second half is underway. UCI going from right to left on your screen. CSUN the other way, left to right.
Nice ball.
Deep and good. Malden comes out, and there was a collision there. See the overhead view, the skyline here in Irvine. I don't know, there's a lot of places you could be at, but it's a pretty decent place, I would say. You can just be comfortably pulling up, watching this game, comfortably sitting 67 degrees, not a cloud over us. Talk about pleasant.
There's something really timeless about this pocket of Irvine as it bleeds into the Newport coasts. The weather, the nondescript corporate skyline as you were IDing, and just the steady flow of well-lit planes taking off from Santa Ana John Wayne as Malden maybe taking a Nike cleat to the face inadvertently from more, and you know, don't want to see that. Hope she's all right.
Taylor Timms is the backup. Timms played in a handful of games up to this point. Malden, 10 of them.
Look at the togetherness of the Matadors. And as soon as Malden had went down, they were like a magnet. Every single player in a white jersey was almost rushing back to go check on her. That was a beautiful thing to see, as hoping she's just taking a little knock here. She's sitting upright, which is a positive sign. And if they
always the contact upstairs, you got to be weary of.
Yeah, most definitely, David.
Adele Espinoza, the athletic trainer out there.
And he almost feel, I'm not a lip reader and I don't know what they were talking about, but perhaps she was feeling like she could stay out there, and he was maybe just telling her, let's take an extra bit of precaution. Still working with her on the sideline, Espinoza. What a strange way to get that second half started from a mood standpoint. We'll see how it affects the focus of both sides here. We do, I believe, David, have a sub brewing here.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Yeah, you see Taylor Timms there.
Oh, wow.
Tim's not getting a thumbs up.
Really interesting as Malden wants to keep going. Tim's was nearly in the goal mouth, ready to take the steering wheel in a huge moment. And halfway there, gets summoned back to the bench.
This one played in beautifully, and it gets past Malden, and it's 1-0 UC Irvine. Tell you what, the thing just unfolded, and Malden, after the injury, came back. And for UC Irvine, that thing just slow played all the way through.
And David, with Halloween looming, this is a ghost goal of epic proportions. Just gets the whole entire back line frozen as that ball trickles in to Gianna Creighton, I believe, who gets on the score sheet, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And I'm just a little distracted and crestfallen by the fact that Malden gets a head injury, wants to keep going, and was immediately put on the spot again with a point-blank attacking moment, a sleepy attacking moment at that, from the Anteaters. And she didn't even really react to that ball going by her. Wasn't the most powerful shot, but definitely want to take a look at that again. Maybe a delayed reaction from her. Certainly caught the entire back four by surprise, but what a bizarre and immediate change of fortune for the Matadors in turn of events here at Anteaters Stadium.
I think it was just, not that it was harmless, it didn't look like it had a serious threat. This one does, though.
Great save.
Jeez. Talk about a different sequence, though. Malden gives up a shot that just gets poked past her, and that attempt was hard charging, and she made a good save. So UC Irvine gets the lead. It's exactly what they needed coming out of the halftime conversation. That goal being scored in the 46th minute by Alyssa Moore.
Excuse me, Alyssa Moore.
Aislinn Crowder with the assist. And so for Moore, who's really not done a lot in the offensive category, scoring her second goal of the season, time and place.
And apologies to our viewers. Alyssa Moore slotting that in. The bizarre technique. We're going to take a look at this again. I thought there was an appeal potentially for offside. She was just alone, one-on-one with Malden. Here we go. Creighton does well to collect this. Crowder with a cheeky little ball.
I mean, it almost looked from our angle that Creighton was giving this back, not for the intent for Crowder to provide service, but almost to have a shot. And Moore at that second nearly appeared to be offside.
And to Alyssa Moore's credit, sometimes the most lethal technique that can be applied to scoring a goal is just passing it into the net. You know, everyone loves to see the net ripple.
Yeah.
But you provide enough of that proper technique where you make your entire body firm and come through it cleanly enough that just finds the right piece of real estate past Maldine, and
She was assisted on the play by 18, Aislinn Crowder. Again,
it's good vision from Crowder to get that thing cooking.
16, Alyssa Moore, assisted by 18, Crowder. It's 1-0 Irvine.
And I think an added layer of intrigue about that is that, considering the stakes of senior night, it was not it wasn't an optically emphatic goal from an aesthetic standpoint. Not to take any credit away. Here's Covey.
Covey with good motor right there.
Yeah.
And I think at that point too, you don't even care, right? You're nursing a winless streak right now, and you're a little deprived in terms of the goal scoring margin, and you need to play with the advantage. Now, they had the advantage against Long Beach State last week, or a few days ago, excuse me, and then all of a sudden they surrendered that, play to a 1-1 draw. But tonight, frankly, they should beat CSUN, and now they have a lead.
There's definitely something in the air, though. Like, look at the Matadors hanging around. The Anteaters need 2 goals. Good step.
Yeah, it was. Arteaga, who had a good look and a free kick just outside the 18 straight away in the first half. And now that goal differential, which we mentioned at the top of the show for CSUN, was at -31. It's now to -32. They've conceded 41 goals on the year.
That's rough.
That's tough.
That's rough. I think one way to spin that is that, you know, when you are at rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. And there's a lot of Northridge substitutes clamoring for a foul on Maddie Chavez. I thought that was a good step and a clean play, body to body. No extracurriculars, as her Terminator tape on the knees and thighs and hamstrings remains intact after this.
Wait, you don't like the magnetic tape or
no,
what?
I do. It's something, wow. Look at the balance of Chavez to stay up after absorbing that body-to-body hit. You could see Coach Rafa Garcia on his feet, almost as if he's the head coach from an energy standpoint. Feels as though the group has something left in the tank to offer.
Yeah, that tape is magnetic tape, so the purpose of that tape, not for aesthetics, but it's to lift the skin to improve and promote blood circulation.
Look at that. Little sports medicine nugget
Ugh.
for the ESPN Plus faithful.
Tried and true former athletes. Banged up and brittle.
I was never a huge fan of the tape back in the prehistoric era of college soccer when I was participating. It was an aesthetic choice, maybe to keep your shin guards up, to do it around your ankles. It was super weird and uncomfortable.
Now the question is, did you ever wear the magnetic necklaces or wristbands? Or the bracelets?
No. I was George Kuntz called me a meat and potatoes player. I don't really know what that means, but I don't think it's the type of player that wears bracelets and necklaces.
It's the type of player that they would distinguish as very vanilla.
No way.
Very vanilla.
Type of player that would come from the valley, like these
see, to
Matadors
your point,
with
though,
bite.
with the attire, that's what a lot of the Asian baseball players would wear. A lot of players in South Korea and Japan would be wearing the magnetic bracelets and necklaces because that again would be magnetic. Here's Huff on that service. UCI doing a fine job right now of possession. As soon as I say that, they give it away. But yeah, I mean, the way that modern medicine is now, you get these players and the trainers that are able to revolutionize the sport, keep players healthy, or at least get them back on the pitch. Hyperbaric chambers. You obviously get the work in the saunas or the whirlpools.
It's a nice life being
a different game.
A college athlete these days. Here's a good sequence. I just want to point out that Mendoza hasn't really looked herself, who's usually just a treasure chest of step overs and tidy footwork. Perhaps, and she's on the left flank though. Maybe someone, a more experienced and talented player like Tati Fung and Destiny Monso, who's felt the ripple effect of the change of tactics from Coach Juniper.
This could be a situation where Scott feels comfortable with his players, and so why not tweak the formation, the shape a little bit to see how they respond in different circumstances on the pitch.
To that point, shifting Gianna Creighton back into the spine of the team led to that ghost goal, which is where we saw her in the fledgling stages of this Anteater 2022 campaign. It's good work from Creighton. And I also think there's something to be said mentally for schools on the quarter system from an academic standpoint. Just getting into the rhythm of having to add that load to your day-to-day. Midterms, more challenging trajectory of schoolwork as Creighton gets taken down there. I feel like it could just affect the focus, David, a little bit.
Let's see this here near midfield. Not a harmful tackle. Arteaga with the foul.
I just want to give a friendly shout out to Gianna Creighton's mom, who made her way over to the broadcast booth at halftime.
Heavily criticized you, by the way.
Yes, she said, take off the headset and walk to the Mesa parking structure. It's over. She was highly complimentary of the job that David, you, myself to a certain extent, and our producer Daniel and this crew up here has done all season. So big ups to everyone. And it's nice to, something cool about the UCI, the experience here watching a game is that we're very accessible. There's no security here protecting our talent and production ranks from interacting with the fans. So that was a cool moment.
Full disclosure, our executive producer Daniel Liu does provide you with fruit and water bottles, and at times a little bit of shade when you come in, strolling in a bit early. The celebrity status that you are, being an alumni here.
That was a nice little sombrerito from Goose and Brown. And yes, producer Daniel is a tough customer, but he takes care of his people. He's building something special here.
Anteaters trying to build something here. Right now, as it stands, if they hold out, this will be their second win of conference play. And for CSUN, they're trying to snap a 4-game winless streak.
And I think an approach and tactic that a few teams in conference have applied, I think there's a huge parallel in the beach game and the one against the Matadors right now, where you need to take the midfield away from the Anteaters. There's a lot of their more talented technicians whose offices reside in the midfield corridors here at Anteater Stadium. Crowder, Monso, Fung, Creighton, and others. And when you do that, the likes of these loose 50-50 balls that DeBacher just drew this foul from, you force them to do what we're about to see. You got to go long. And it's really tough to score a goal having to send a 60-yard through ball, flighted at that. To anyone in the offensive ranks of this Anteater team, they don't really, besides Alyssa Moore from a speed standpoint, here she is.
On the approach here,
And
no numbers.
She's so much more comfortable getting behind the defense with her heels on the sideline. We saw a lot of her at the focal point of the attack. But there's not, I want to say there's not an out-and-out 9 in this group. Someone with speed, technique that can turn people, but also play great combination with the Anteater midfield. So when you take away that middle third of the field, really testing the Anteaters to, or forcing them, I should say, to be more direct, which is visibly frustrating them. And I think that through the results we've seen, it's not been fun for them. A lot of ties.
Should that worry you?
It does. It does a little bit. And Coach Juniper is a brilliant coach. I really like him. And does his homework and has put in a lot of time from a understanding the game and tactics and training, but I think he has a magnetic sense of leadership. He knows a lot more than I do about the game, but I've always been curious why they generate a lot of set pieces. Oh! Smangy.
Bodies colliding there.
Yeah, Smangy, that was another. Smangy just getting a stretch in after getting clobbered there. Smangy and Chavez seem to be handcuffed to protecting Hinojosa on set pieces, and they're sending flighted balls into the box on, you know, Huff can huck the ball really far. They have a prosperous offense that gets them a lot of corner kicks. Yet when they serve the ball into the box, I'm looking at the likes of Sophie Gillies, Castagna, Fung, and maybe Alyssa Moore, and sometimes Gianna Creighton. Besides Creighton, there's no one with size from a height standpoint. And I think that the finer the margins of these games, you really need to use set pieces as a wild card to get results. And I'd like to see Maddie Chavez and Smangy wander in to the 6-yard box of the opposition goal on some of these corner kicks and throws, but must be a lot of weighted favor towards protecting Hinojosa's goal.
Well, Hinojosa was tested in the first half. Made 3 quality saves, 2 of them on her line. She doesn't make those saves, this could be a different match altogether. But outside of the couple stressful moments for UCI in the first half, their defense has been relatively clean, and Season just hasn't had a ton of possession. Cruz, nice move to get around the corner. That delivery was in, but knocked away.
Really nifty work from Cruz there. Put in DeBacher on skates like it's winter in Amsterdam. She was very uncomfortable there. Backpedaling. Cruz providing small plucky touches as she was bearing down on Hinojosa's goal.
Get a peek at Samantha Healy, who came out in the first half. Semicolon as well. Healy from Laverne. She went to Claremont High School. Again, another freshman. 17 freshmen on the squad for Christine Johnson.
Look for Monzo here.
Long chuck goes on target.
Nice ball from Huff. Sprays that one out there.
It's really not a bad team at all for CSUN. Just a young group trying to get some W's and find a winning formula.
They set up similarly to the Beach. Content to have a lot of numbers behind the ball and effectively counter with 3 people, sometimes successfully, when they get in possession. Look at this, 7 white jerseys behind the ball.
Yeah, it's good pursuit. You say that and see that, and you think about the goal that UCI conceded a few days ago to Long Beach State. They were up in that match until the 66th minute, but they had nobody back for Glo Hinojosa. At UCI right now, they're unbeaten in 10 straight Big West Conference matches, trying to push it to 11. Obviously dating back to last year.
It's a nice ball. Got to say that Huff's done well to fill the void of Lily Rask, who, gosh, just saying that name makes me miss her exploits and her work on the field. Bombing up the flank. Albeit Huff finding a space here on the left flank. Rask loved right back. Essentially cooked most of the successful offensive flurries we saw at the beginning of the season. I feel as though that's something to be mentioned. They've really missed Lily Rask ghosting into the midfield and offensive third in games.
Well, that is the case. These two teams played in a tight one earlier. Anteaters won it 2-1. How early was it? Well, you have to go all the way back to September the 12th. A lot can certainly change the results, injuries, performances. See this ball played through.
And this is a hard craft to execute, but when you're playing against a team that's really organized like that in the low block, here the Matadors are on the ball again.
Trying to come back, that one bouncing to Hinojosa.
Not to
talk about a candy hop.
Not to be graphic, but a death by 1,000 cuts may be the best way to go about getting a result tonight. They don't need to chip the ball in, and they've already tried to get over the top for nearly 70 minutes of this game, and it hasn't worked out well for them. Monso is one of the better technical players probably of all the 22 on the pitch right now. And they do right upon themselves just to play in little triangles in the midfield to offensive thirds of the Matadors' space on the field.
Maya Sanks coming in. You saw Maya real quick, a redshirt freshman. She's a transfer from Utah Valley, but grew up down the road quite a bit, though. She grew up in San Diego, America's finest city, who's also in a dogfight of their own. It's LA and San Diego, the National League Division Series, Major League Baseball.
Very disappointed last night at that equalizing, to use soccer terminology to describe a progression of a baseball series. The equalizing game tied up 1-1 with the boys, as they're called,
Oh, it's a bad pass. Claiborne here. Houston trying to capitalize on a mistake. Back comes UCI on the counter.
Look at that effort. That effort from Claiborne. And also Rubalcava, just the bite and intensity that they play with is really inspiring to watch, considering their record throughout the season. Something I really like about soccer philosophy is that you essentially approach the game the same way you would if you're losing 8-0, winning 1-0, if you're 0-8 or 8-0. The sense of consistency that needs to be streamlined. And just to take the discussion back to the field here, Chavez spends a lot of time on the ground. Here's Castagna.
Let's see here, that is a boot, but again, while the intent is there, the purpose never on course.
Not at all. And speaking of which, believe the return of the Rask here. Look at the smile. Really happy to be out there again. That's fantastic. Dealing with an injury, and I believe, and she was wearing a knee brace there. That's a cool sub and an interesting sub to see, easing her back into a little bit of game, fitness, and action. So she's obviously ready to go. Coach Juniper had been pleased with Huff's work rate and performances out there. But just to finish up that thought on Chavez, it's really comfortable slide tackling, but maybe a little too comfortable, as at times I saw her slip once in possession, but selling out a lot like that can play into a team that's playing direct and has a sense of chaos and counterattacking flair about the way they want to go about scoring goals. No disrespect to the Matadors, but their record is the way it is for a reason. So sometimes you just need to keep players in front of you. Don't make them look better than they are. And the Matadors have been up for tonight, but I feel as though a few times these experienced Anteater defenders have.
Ooh, dangerous moment there.
Yeah, just made the Matadors look a bit more world class than perhaps they are. And all credit to the Matadors and the fight they've put up tonight. Especially
a couple teams that are in front of UCI, Luke. Cal Poly, they lead 1-0 tonight. Cal State Fullerton's up 2-1, and Long Beach State handling business. They're up 5-1.
Yeah, an interesting 20 minutes here as all these Thursday night Big West games come to a close. They really need to hold on to these 3 points.
It is absolutely imperative. Long Beach State handling business right now. UC Davis beat Cal State University of Bakersfield. Long Beach State lighting up UC San Diego 5-1. Cal Poly over UCR, and Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara losing to Cal State Fullerton. So one can rise, one can fall, and Hinojosa fully extended again.
Hinojosa's looking a little concerned there, as that's a bit of an instep, low-lying sprayer. That was an interesting shot, maybe getting aided by some of the moisture on the pitch. Hinojosa's eyes were very wide after that chance. Oh, wow, and a missed set-piece opportunity there, but I'd like to see Hinojosa light up her back line a little bit from a focus standpoint with some verbal messaging. I love to see that from a goalie at the highest levels, where when there's just a slight lapse in positional balance and focus in coverage, really demanding a lot more from the ranks playing in front of them to put him or her in a good position to succeed. Arteaga has been a very bright spot for these Matadors, earning another corner. Nice bit of footwork, deception on the ball.
Back-to-back corners here. Legal touching.
Just a stray hand there. And the secret is out on this Anteater team. They're uncomfortable playing direct, which, you know, you'd like to commend them for having a lot of technicians and being good on the ball. The championship teams, good teams, can and should be able to do a little bit of everything. And really lacking some exclamation points in responding to the question of, can you beat us by being physical and direct?
We've got a question and a debate here. But time is winding down.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this. This is Rubalcaba getting...
Oh, that's a blatant push, though.
Yeah, yeah. Monzo's a experienced collegiate soccer player. This is a good, geez, maybe longer than 30 yards, just barely.
And
Oh,
Alana Etheridge, the lead official tonight, has let both teams play throughout. That shot, and Hoser literally pounces on it. Maddie with a two-hand shove, though, and she got away with it. Cruz being swarmed now. Lena Solano, who did not score against UCI. She's got a hat trick tonight against UC San Diego.
That young
Conference's most dangerous striker.
Wow, young lady at the height of her powers. Lena Solano from Agora.
Yeah.
The northern stretches of the 818 Greater Los Angeles Basin. That's never fun. Taking a very well pumped up D1 ball to the face there. Imperial Fam. Unlucky. Yeah, just want to make sure she's okay from a concussion standpoint. Here she's getting tested by Espinoza.
Clock stoppage here as we're in the 77th minute.
You could see that slow-moving headlights on Campus Drive. It's about the same vibe we've seen from the Anteaters tonight. Something overtly positive, but maybe lethargic, not from an energy standpoint, but just from a putting all the pieces together perspective. That's a nice bit of skill.
This one lobbied up. Malden will get to it. Shots right now in this contest, UCI has 13 and 4 of them on target. Season has 9, but they have 6 on target. Each team with a couple yellow cards. Matadors with 3.
Oh my word. Rask Castagna connection. Look at this.
Take a look at this collision.
Looked like
That is a cold shoulder, man.
freezing. It looked like you might see that on Thursday Night Football, potentially. Maybe on special teams.
See Monzo Castagna hanging around the 18. This time is withering away. This is a wasted opportunity for UCI. And not much has changed for the Anteaters despite having the lead. They're not sitting on it. They're not trying to protect it by any means with regards to going into some kind of defensive shell, just not their game.
One thing that I think is great about Malden there in your pictures, she responded really well to that injury to her head that looked at first to be potentially severe. She was down for a little while and kind of reminded me of, I believe it was the 2018 Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid, where Real Madrid would go on to win 3-1. Gareth Bale scored an insane bicycle kick, but one crazy storyline about that was just the center back for Real Madrid kind of laying a cheap shot on the Liverpool goalie, Loris Karius, who stayed in the game, seemed a different player after the hit to the head, and conceded one howler to Karim Benzema, and that was the first thing. Essentially had the ball at his feet and Benzema was bearing down on this goalie, and it's almost as if his vision was not working properly, just didn't realize how close this on-rushing attacker was, and Karim Benzema taps the ball into the goal. Is something unprecedented to see in a final of that level. And when the Matador goalie took that hit, I was just hoping that she wouldn't be held back by sense of pride and trying to stay in the game, and she's responded well. So big ups to Hayden Malden tonight.
Less than 10 minutes to play in this thing. And Season in danger of running the record to 2-13-1. For UCI, they're 5-3-6 overall, but 1-0-5 in conference play. Yes, 1-0-5. They have 8 points. Win tonight, though, that moves them to 11 points.
Something so poor tasting about all those ties. You almost sacrifice. You take 2 wins maybe and a loss, which would, I'm not a mathematician, but fill that loss column and spread those points around a little bit more, would just have this team feeling a little more themselves. I think they're definitely having an existential crisis of sorts about why the results aren't coming.
But again, a loss is much better if you're delivering it than being stuck on anything else. In this case, for CSUN, no wins in conference play, 0-5-1. And for UCI, they've had some moments where they played with the leads. Again, that game against Long Beach State a few days ago, they were up 1-0 until the 66th minute. But they've had to battle back in matches too, so you can earn a win or even a draw.
And Northridge doing a really good job at disrupting, and again drawing a foul. I believe that's Rubalcava. No, that's Arteaga at the center of that fracas, and a second yellow card administered to the Anteater ranks. These are really concerning moments with just a 1-0 lead. As I'd mentioned, you would have liked them to get that insurance goal to would have allowed them to play a little bit more freely.
Yeah, it's on Maddie Chavez.
Maddie Chavez stays on her feet this time, but clips Arteaga, Cindy.
Chavez looked like a missile coming out of nowhere on that contact.
She often does. She covers a lot of ground and plays with this ferocity.
Nearly the identical spot that was delivered in the first half for CSUN. This shot off the crossbar, hit it flush. Well, we mentioned at the top and highlighted it in a couple of situations too, Luke, with Glo Hinojosa. She's only 5'6".
And she was nowhere near this strike as they're getting ready to take another one. This is almost a Cinderella strike from Cindy Arteaga as she gets that technique down and is just thwarted by the friendly crossbar living above Hinojosa's not that tall frame. Wow, and another similarly positioned free kick moment here for the Matadors. Really unlucky. Wow, and you'd just like to think that that chance, which was booted off the beam above Hinojosa, was the moment to equalize here and take the breath collectively out of these Anteaters as they, I gotta be honest with you, get really lucky there. And that ball is moving, and gotta give credit to Hinojosa. She might have just nicked that ball, but to be honest with you, the force and velocity of that strike is the story there, and it's just the placement of it. I think if that's anywhere but hitting the crossbar, Hinojosa could get a hand to that. It's still going in the goal. But Hinojosa, from a awareness standpoint, in the right place, really unlucky from Cindy Arteaga and the rest of these Matadors, who have, to their credit, hung around, and they're still hanging around.
Unbelievable force that was delivered, and Hinojosa fortunate. Similar to what happened in the first half. For all that CSUN has not done this year, I'll tell you what, they've played a pretty good game tonight.
They've represented really well. And I had mentioned that they are very comfortable cruising down the 405. It's just a little jaunt down the 405. Get on at Nordhoff somewhere, and it's not that long of a trip. I think you're mentally able to stay dialed in. It's not like driving, you know, and staying overnight in one of these games that would happen in mid to NorCal in the Big West. And they're comfortable coming down here and playing spoiler, which they've almost done on a beautiful free kick.
This one whipped out. Header was up and down. Not a lot of sauce on it. See Kaylee Jackson, Atiega. Handful of players for the Matadors have showed off some skill. Ashley Cruz the same. But just no juice offensively. No finish. Their next game is going to be quite a challenge. It'll actually be in a couple days from now against Long Beach State. Long Beach State tattooing UC San Diego tonight. 6-1 when we last saw it. And that'll be a foul.
And just one thing we've talked about a few times.
Sprague called for the yellow here.
Maddie Chavez and Smengi are fantastic defenders. They're not entirely comfortable having to deal with speed. And there is no one on this Matador roster that really has an Alyssa Moore style wheels or engine. And we saw this, David. I'm going to reference an early season game. I want to reference the LMU draw here. A team similarly with a big chip on its shoulder, having experienced a few nightmare seasons in a row of winless over the course of a few years. And they marched into Anteaters Stadium, got a draw, I believe, and did enough to frustrate the Anteaters. It's Huff. Number 13 checks in here for DeBacher. And they
I misspoke. It was Kaylee Jackson with the yellow card.
Kaylee Jackson with the caution, and they actually had some more speed, the LMU Lions, that really troubled on a few occasions Chavez and Smengi. And teams beginning to catch on to that. I feel as though El Bahari would be extremely helpful in a game like this. It's surprising to me to see her in such a short cameo, David. We've both seen her really comfortable on the ball, and she absorbs pressure well. I feel like that's one thing. Covey is a physical presence out there, but she ideally would like to be bearing down on goal, not super comfortable playing as a target man. Lila El Bahari does that well, and I feel like these Anteaters just need someone, when they're forced to play long, who can settle the ball, keep it, allow the block to move up, and cook that more traditional half-court offense. They're just constantly in 50-50s and loose balls here, which seems like it's been an eternity, almost like the entire second half of the second half.
Yeah, that has been troublesome. You look at what happened last year. Part of their success, actually the majority of it, was the damage that was done by Scarlett Camberos. Camberos led the entire Big West Conference in goals.
Baller.
And she was all world for Scott Juniper, but her scoring last year, the team itself scored 43 goals, and Camberos had 13 of them.
Oh, another good.
This attempt hit a wall in front.
And look at the sense of desperation from the Irvine team, just huffing it up the field. You do have to clear your lines sometimes, but they need a bit of that from Monzo. That was a good ball. Here's Fung. Oof.
Remaining.
Last minute of regulation.
I got to be honest with you, David. Hawkes is a great player. I don't think it's the worst thing she didn't play in this game. This is really similar to the Long Beach game. It was very feisty. If perhaps not getting a red card, or excuse me, sent off for accumulation in the black and blue game, Maddie Chavez. Right. Let's get her on a Premier League team or something. She is such a physical presence. Knows how to make a 90-degree angle out of her forearm while she jumps into the back of Jackson there. And this was a chippy one, and I don't think that maybe a blessing in disguise that Hawkes will be returning next game.
But for UC Irvine, finally, it is over. And what I mean by over is their drought. A winless streak that ran around for quite a while, but they finally get things done here tonight. The final score over CSUN